Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the March edition of the Best of Missouri Hands Professional Development Workshop. This year, we're doing a series of doing virtual studio tours. So, give us a little insight into how some of our members set up their space to create and stuff. So, this month, we have Patty Muenks of Heart the Art Studios with us, and she's going to take us on a virtual tour, and I know it's going to be exciting. So she'll do a video, and then she'll open things up for questions and everything. I'm going to let her introduce herself. I appreciate everybody being here, and thank you, Patty, for inviting us into your studio.
You got it. Well, thanks so much for Best of Missouri Hands for opening up this opportunity. I am more than happy to share my studio space. So, as Kim said, I am Patty Muenks. My studio is here, the Art Studios in St. Charles, Missouri, and I work out of my home. I established my studio in 2014. I am a registered LLC with the state of Missouri, and I have just chosen to basically transform a couple different spaces in the home that my husband Roy and I live. And it's really been nice. I keep down my costs just being able to work out of my home. It's really convenient because I can get a lot of stuff done while I'm firing kilns or making artwork. And yeah, right now I'm the sole owner of the company, and then I consider Roy one of my studio potters. So he works on the wheel, but I'll talk more about that. And if anyone has any questions, if not, I'll go ahead and start sharing my videos. And please bear with me as I switch to screen share.
Technology. It's, it's,
We
it's,
can
it's
do,
nice that we're able to do this.
yeah, we can do hard things, right?
Right.
Okay, so
Don't
here
forget
we
to
go.
optimize.
Yep, are we good to go? Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
as I share mine, I actually have, because I have several different areas in my home, I switch things up. So there'll be 3 videos to watch. And after each video, I'll stop screen sharing and take any questions or talk a little bit about it before we go to the other 2 parts. Okay, here we go. Welcome to Hear the Art Studios. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I walk out. Here's Dorothy. But when I walk out to my studio, it is right here in my garage, so it makes it real handy to be at home and be able to work in the studio and also get stuff done at home. So one of the most important things in my studio is having lots of shelving area. I use all sorts of different kind of tools. I also collect tons and tons of things. So a lot of my shelves are filled with inspiration. I have different types of older artwork around. Then it's mixed in with all my shelving that I use. There's letter stamps, there's bottles of slip, all sorts of sponges. I love having my tools at easy access. So I just have them in jars and things. When I use my slab roller, I can use all sorts of different kinds of textures. This is a big bucket of all sorts of different forms and things. So as a ceramic artist, I primarily am a hand builder. I pretty much do all my work. You see, everything is, there's some seeds from the garden area, but everything that I build, I use this slab roller. So I actually put clay in between these pieces of canvas. So you can put just a big lump of clay in there, and then it rolls out like a gigantic rolling pin. So then when I use the slabs, I create all sorts of different forms.
I really, really love doing these. These are my lidded boxes and jars, or reliquaries as I like to call them. I also do like using slabs to create some hollow forms. So these are just open forms that I do. But I love having my art out on display. So when I'm getting ready to make something, I come out here and I keep everything out in the open. It also makes it real nice if I ever have customers that want to schedule appointments to come over. So these are some of my seed pod rattles. These are one of the more current bodies of work I was making. Of course, I love, love, love making my ceramic stones. So those are always out on display in baskets. But it's also a working garage. So things like our bicycles, our trash can, snow shovels. I mean, there's like our tent, this big thing here. This is our raku kiln that's portable that we bring out back. But there's a stack of tiles that Roy reads in our bathroom. I'm gonna be doing the bathroom in our guest room this spring. You know, ladders. And then we do have the kilns. So when I started here at the Art Studios in 2014, I actually had gotten a small little inheritance from my dad when he passed away. So I actually bought this kiln first. And these kilns, I love it. It's the brand Scut. They're made in Portland, Oregon. We just recently updated this one and got the touchscreen monitor. But these kilns are really great because you can really fire any size. You're not really limited. I mean, obviously you're limited to how tall that is. But then over here on these shelving, these are all the different posts and the different shelves that I can build and create where I fire all my artwork in there. Because I was doing a lot of smaller ceramic stones, I decided to get a smaller kiln. So you can see the difference there. Those are the two different electric kilns that I use. Depending on what I'm firing, when I'm doing my lidded vessels and jars and things, yeah, I'll use the bigger kiln. When I'm finding that a lot of my loads are just stones, I'll fill the smaller kiln up. But Roy actually did all the wiring for me, so he actually hardwired. The kilns are just wired directly into the box. So when I need to fire, I flip that on. So yeah, it's, I mean, as I said, lots of shelving. Those are some mugs that Roy threw that they've already been fired once. They're ready for the glaze fire, or well, to be glazed and then the glaze firing. Those are some new jars I'll be bringing to my next art show. Here's seeds of intention that are drying. Another set of stones that are drying. This was a gigantic set of wall stones. So I have some on display here, and I apologize. I have a tendency to move very quickly when I'm recording things. But the wall stones are a great item that actually is a collaborative piece. Roy throws the body on the wheel for me, and then I carve all the designs. So a lot of those have been raku fired and they have cracked in the firing process. So I usually will keep them and not put them for sale. But I mean, things that are in my studio, I mean, this is, Amico is my favorite glazes that I like to buy. I buy commercial glazes. All my Word of the Year stones are done with their Celadon glazes. But it's just, you know, I utilize all my spaces. I mean, my collection of baskets is out here. Oh, my juried member. certificates with Best of Missouri Hands, but I have my bio, If Stones Could Speak, as a little reminder. And then here's my certificate, because I am a registered LLC in the state of Missouri. But it's just really good space out here. Now the drawback, in the winter time, it gets incredibly cold because it's, I mean, I have insulation in the walls, but it's just the garage door out there that just leads to our driveway. So it gets very cold out here, so I have to be very mindful about leaving any kind of buckets of water. This is a bucket I actually was keeping inside that now that we've gotten a little bit warmer and we're not freezing at night, I can bring some stuff out here. But this is the space I spend a lot of time out here firing. And then what's really nice is, being in the space that's right off of my house, I can go in there and work on laundry or work on, things around the house while I'm firing a kiln, while I'm waiting for some clay to dry. So, I mean, I use all sorts of different kinds of things. Foam pads, I actually found that I can rest, some of my artwork that I don't want it to be up against a flat surface. I can use that. But yeah, it's, there's all, and that's all my, I mean, I don't waste space. I mean, I have stuff on pretty much every shelf in here. So I'm grateful to have it. I mean, when we converted this into my art studio, all of Roy's tools and everything had to be brought down into the basement. So I'll be giving you a little tour of that basement space, because the thing out here, I was not able to have my wheel. First of all, I wasn't really using the wheel very often, and Roy has fallen in love with it, so he has moved it downstairs and created a mud room where he works on the wheel. But I will follow this video up with that one. Okay.
Okay, let's see. We're gonna stop sharing. Oh, look at that smooth transition.
Excellent job.
Okay. So, oh, hi, Lois. Thanks for joining us. So any questions? So that technically was the first room of here, the art studio. So the converting the garage was the first big job. We've had to move a lot of stuff around. I have to be, pretty vigilant on keeping it clean, because I do open the garage door to help when I'm firing kilns. I use that. I don't have any venting system, so I just use the open air from the garage door. With that, so much stuff like gets blown in. I'll get birds in the garage sometimes while I'm firing the kilns. And does anyone have any questions about that space? Or
Patty, do you unload all your art to display it in the studio between shows?
Some of it, and you'll see on the third video when I go to my photography room, when I unload a kiln, really my first thing I do is I bring everything upstairs so I can photograph it. There's shelves up there. If it's going on the website, they'll be on shelves in there. Sometimes I'll just pack stuff up if I know there's a show. Like the wall stones I can't display. I don't have the display space for the wall stones that I sell. So those stay in buckets. It just kind of depends. I mean, I do like to have them out, because then when I'm making like the next set of reliquaries, I like to be able to see like what were the glazes I used, what was coming the style, so that I'm not duplicating things that I already have. So it's kind of a mix.
Very cool. Michelle, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say I've seen Patty's studio in person and I was
Yeah.
impressed from the get-go. But what I love about it is the use of space. So even though it is a garage, you have literally tried to utilize as much space as you possibly could use. And it's like you always see something. I love that it, no matter if you're working at a certain station or whatever, you have things accessible, but being able to see your artwork and then know that, oh, I've already done colors similar to that, so I'm going to try something different or whatever. I absolutely love your space.
Thanks a
Mhm.
lot, Michelle. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of fun. I am always kind of moving stuff around. And Roy, my husband, is really, really good at building shelves and creating, I mean, he really has helped me to maximize the space we have. And yeah, I mean, there's stuff always being moved around. And I have a lot of, things are on wheels. So for that reason, and I do have, I didn't say it in the video, but Michelle, I don't know if you noticed, I do have the baker's rack. You had said in your video, it's like, that's one of the most handy items to be able to have to roll around.
Yeah.
And then we actually change it out. I think he used like just plywood, but he made wood shelves for me so that they can support carrying, the weight of pottery on those.
I
I
love
have a
it because it could
question,
be,
Patty. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's great because it could be used for literally glass, pottery, photography, anything else to be able to use as a stowaway spot without being completely stowed away.
Yeah,
Love
for
it.
sure.
Love it.
Okay, any
Hey,
other
Patty.
questions? Yeah, oh, yes, Kim?
Yeah, I've got. When you do your, I guess your mark making on your stones and on your slabs, and all, do you do that out in the garage too, or do you bring those in the house and work on them while you're
It
watching TV, or how do you
It
do?
well, it does depend on the weather. So, like when we have those really nice, like the spring and fall days where it's just beautiful, and I can open up the garage and have either a podcast or music playing, I'll just sit out there. I have a stool and I'll just work at the kind of that wedging table that's in the center there that's covered in canvas. Other
Uh-huh.
times, I do really like to watch a lot of movies. So getting myself set up at the kitchen table and just watching TV that way that's primarily where I do all my glazing is I sit at the kitchen table or on the kitchen counter and I'm always watching shows or movies.
Well, that brings up a
Okay.
question for me. How do you do the glazing? I don't know much about pottery, but I took this little intro class and they had big buckets of glaze and you dipped your vessels or whatever into it to get the color. So is that how you do it?
So when you see the big buckets like that, studios or artists are actually buying dry ingredients and mixing up their own buckets and batches. And it's like the big 5 gallon batches of glaze. Because and I can't believe I don't really have any examples handy. When I'm glazing, the work that I do, well, this is a raku piece that I currently hold scissors in. I actually use brushes and just apply the glaze because I'm very intentional with where my glazes go. I can't really do a big dip. So then, because I use a small amount, I love doing commercial glazes. So I usually just buy the pints of glazes and then I will buy gallon jugs. And on, I believe, the next video, you'll see some of where like I store my glazes. But it's really sitting down. I have a whole variety of brushes that I use. I sit with the pint. I apply my glazes in the,
Okay.
certain areas. So it's,
Hmm.
so I'm not really, I mean, when I was in college, I graduated from the University of Oregon with my fine arts or my bachelor's in ceramics was my focus. And that's what, like, we did the glaze chemistry and I learned how to mix all the glazes and we would make the big 5 gallon batches of it. And then that's what, like, it's real easy to just, you wax the bottom of pieces and just dip them. But I have such a different style, so all my glaze is applied like, I mean, as if you would think about painting, like I'm just painting all the glazes on.
Oh, that explains how you can do it at the kitchen table.
Yeah, for sure.
Patty, isn't it funny how at least I can resonate with that is I take over more space than my studio space. So before you know it, you've got stuff out in other areas of your house because it's convenient for you, right?
Oh
And so it
yeah.
spews out everywhere. So then you have to kind of wrangle it all back in.
It is, and that's what even I'm not sure if I caught it on the video, but I ended up having to bring a shelf like into the kitchen area, and I have stacks of buckets where my clay is because it can't be out in the garage, and then going up and down the basement stairs. So the next video is actually going to be going downstairs and seeing what's the mud room, and this became the second room of Here the Art Studios in our house because Roy moved the wheel downstairs. So if y'all are ready, we can jump to the next tour. Okay, Sharon screen. One moment, please. Okay, optimize video. Okay, part 2 of Here the Art Studios.
Okay, here is part 2 of my Here the Art Studio Tour. So I was saying when I was out in the garage that, you know, we had to kind of be mindful because in the winter time, when it gets cold and things freeze, I initially had glazes outside, but our first winter I was like, oh, I can't keep them out there. So Roy, being the handy guy that he is, built these awesome shelves for me. So this is just one area of all the different glazes. And as I said, I use commercial glazes, so it makes it really, really nice to have such a wide spectrum of colors. I usually will buy in pint sizes, unless for some reason, if it's a glaze that I really, really like this one I have marked gallon. Iron luster is a real good glaze. So I will buy gallons and then just refill them, but using the pint size makes it easy to handle. This was one of my many little signs I made for Here the Art Studios. And this is the mudroom. Now, I will just let you know, I initially was wanting to go through and get things cleaned up, and I realized I'm keeping it real. So currently there is not any work. Roy has not really gotten any throwing done recently. So this is just kind of how it is left over. So this is the wheel we have. It's a Shimpo. And again, lots and lots of shelving space. So this is actually what we call a wedging table. It has a canvas top on it. Roy built these. So the one that I have out in the garage, as well as that one, makes for great storage space. He made it out of a nice solid wood. These are stacks of 50-pound boxes of clay. And then these are some of my buckets of clay that throughout the year when it is not cold, I keep them outside. But when it gets cold, everything comes down here in the basement. This is called a, oh gosh, I just totally flaked on what that's called. An extruder. Oh my goodness, I almost called it a pug mill. We do not have a pug mill that mixes clay. This is an extruder. So this is the handle. So clay goes in there. And then there's all these different kind of dies. So if you want to extrude, it's kind of, I always say it's like a Play-Doh press. But it's really nice because you can get all sorts of long pieces of clay you can use decoratively or with handles. So lots of, these are called bats. This is what Roy actually throws the clay on. He also uses these smaller square ones. So these actually get attached to the top of the wheel head, and then he puts the clay directly on there. But you know, I don't tell him how he needs to tend to his space. So if this works for him, I personally like to keep things a little more cleaner, a little more tidier, because being in the garage, I also get a lot of outside debris. In here, this is primarily what this room is used for. So there's all sorts of, you know, different items and tools. Then over here is actually my personal chip chart. I showed you the one that I got from Amico that hangs outside, but this is one that I've started making our own because I love doing the layering with the glazes. So this can show you how, and they're all labeled. I have like them numbered so they're coded so I know what they are. But it's a real fun way. This is the specific clay that we use in our studio. So I can see how the different glazes look, how they run, how they look layered, how they look over different types of clay. Like this, I love this clay. If you see, there's some speckles in it. This is a clay called a speckled tan. And then the glazes, here's an example. On the lighter body of clay, this is how the glaze looks. On this clay that has iron in the clay, those speckles come out in the glazes. So I like having these hanging out here. Roy drew the whole grid out for me and put the nails on it. So it's just a nice way. So I continue to make what's called test tiles. But yeah, this is the space. Roy loves coming down here. He'll put music on. He'll sit at the wheel and just work and throw. So then this is the unfinished side of the basement. This is where I told you Roy had to move all of his tools that were initially in the garage. So he built those workbenches out here. So that's the unfinished side. And then we also have in this little room back here, this is storage. So we have our snow tubes, you know, pantry items, but we also have, these are some of the pieces Roy has thrown that he wants to do raku firing. So he's made them ahead of time and they'll be ready to just be wiped down. There's all of our camping stuff, but then lots of glazes. And then these are all the gallons of the glazes that I really like. I told you I like to get the gallons and then I'll just refill them. So, I mean, this, you know, we utilize every space that we can in here. So lots of buckets of old clay that then gets rehydrated, wedged, and worked back into workable clay. So nothing ever goes to waste, which is a really nice thing when you're working with clay. And this was something real sweet my mom had sent for Roy. Grace and inspiration. Our duty is to proceed as if limits to our ability did not exist. We are collaborators in creation. So that was a good quote that inspires Roy there. So I am rarely ever down here. My space is in the garage, or, you know, when it gets colder, I have a tendency to work. So we're going back up from the basement. But even you can see over here, I like to just work at this table, but even over here, because it has been cold, I brought clay in here and then I keep it covered. These are some of my newest batch of my stone totems that are drying. So yeah, I do a lot of glazing there in the kitchen. So yeah, so there's 2 doors to the studio. That door goes out to the garage. That door goes down to the basement. And I have one more place to show you. We're gonna be heading upstairs so you can see my photography studio. Okay.
Okay. So that was Here the Art Studios part 2.
I do. Can I ask you a couple things real quick?
Sure.
One is I wondered how you keep your own test tiles because I started to ask, does the colors that you get from the commercial place, do they fire accurately? And so because just like in my world, you have your own batch, you have your own mix, you have your own style that you like, so you're just tweaking it. So I love seeing all your test tiles and the firing or the different outcomes with different product that you have on it. So I absolutely love that part. That's one of my favorites. And my question for you is can you throw pottery outside or does it need to be more in an controlled environment?
No, we can throw outside. We actually, well, I mean, I should say Roy, because let's be real. I no longer, I mean, I've sat on the wheel. If I really needed to, I could throw something. I don't like it. It pisses me off. I'm just like, I don't think in that mindset. I am way more organic and flowing. But we did one year when there was the neighborhood garage sale in June.
Right.
We actually, like, I pulled out tables. I brought out a whole bunch of old pottery that I just kind of put discount prices on. Roy brought the wheel outside and was doing like wheel throwing demos outside. So you honestly can throw
Okay.
on the wheel at any, I mean, if it's raining and you're trying to throw on the wheel, well, if it's an electric kiln, you might have some issues.
Right.
But the water might affect it. But honestly, you can throw absolutely anywhere.
Okay. I was just curious about humidity. It's kind of like baking a pie, right?
Yeah.
So if you make a homemade.
It probably more so like humidity would affect the drying process,
Mhm.
but not necessarily in the creation. Because I mean, you have the wheels spinning, so it's the centrifugal force that's kind of
Right.
helping you create your piece. So, and Roy's really good. I did initially ask him if he would be sitting on the wheel, like throwing when I did that. But we couldn't quite get things lined up. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to jump in and do the videos. Keeping it real, as I said. Any other questions about the basement? I did get in a little bit about the glazing too, Wanda. So I hope that kind of gave you a visual of the containers I use when I'm glazing.
Yes, and I also like the wall you have with all your
I do.
test
I do too.
glazes.
It's real handy now. I have to be mindful because there's times if I'm moving in there quickly, I have knocked them off and have broken. So currently I have a broken one sitting out in my studio that I'm like, oh, I got to redo that. But it's really nice because we use a couple varieties of clay. It is really neat to see. Like you could see that comparison I showed you where on the lighter buff clay versus that speckled tan clay that I love, how different that same glaze could look. And even the test tiles I get from the company, a lot of times they will do like 3 coats of glaze on just a white clay body, and that's what the test tiles are. For me, because especially in my stones, I only just use 1 coat of glaze. So I need to get an idea of how it's going to look in 1 coat versus the 3 coats that are used, with the professional test tiles. So yeah, it's nice to be able to see how it's going to work for the way that I will be using the product.
And it's nice and visual, just right there. You're not having to dig through a drawer or some other means to see what you're looking for.
And that, I mean, it is a common thing. I mean, I did that because that's what I've known. When Roy and I kind of got back I graduated from college in 99, but then I ended up kind of stepping away from clay for years, and only until when I got together with Roy and I moved up here, he surprised me, and we went and took a pottery class at Kruger Pottery, which at the time they were in Webster Grove still. And it was really neat because their glaze lab that they have, that's what they have all the test tiles hanging on the wall. And I loved it. So that was definitely something as we were establishing and how we were setting up here. I was like, oh yeah, like we want to, and Roy is, I mean, he's very mathematical. That's why he loves the wheel. But like he lined up, he made that whole grid, measured everything out. And I love it. I mean, that's why I think we do so well together, because I'm like, woo, the free flowing, and he's like,
Yeah. Well,
okay,
I'll tell
well,
you, I got, I've been to your house several times and stuff, and have seen your workspaces and everything. But I guess just sitting down and really seeing you walk through each thing,
Mm-hmm.
when people ask, well, why did this cost so much or whatever, not only because of your experience and everything, but by golly, you've got a lot of tools and supplies, and I mean, I you know I, yeah, people should not, if they understood all that goes in, to that
yeah. Well, and
piece
just
of
even,
work.
I think what is very misleading is when you think about the pieces of made in China pottery, the different little things that you're seeing at Walmart or something for just a couple dollars. And then like to look at a mug for $40, people are like, how, why do you charge so much? And it's like, well,
Right.
because I mean, I'm a small business, like, and even Roy, he makes the forms on the wheel, but then I do all the firing, I do all the glazing. It's like we are not in production mode. So when we make these small batches of 20 mugs at a time or something, it's like, yeah, I mean, and it's, and I know the people that are questioning the prices are not seeing the value in the work, and those are not my customers.
Right.
The people that can
Right.
look at, a little ceramic stone and say, sure, paying $20 for this, I see the value in it. It's like, those are my people.
Patty, Patty, I think that
Yeah.
that's true as well, that I have tried to throw pottery. And there is so much that goes into it, but that's just going to a studio where they have the slips, they have the clay, they have all of that stuff. You have your own studio in your house, and it takes a long dang time to come up with a product that is good enough to sell to somebody else as well.
Oh yeah.
So
And there's a lot on this last tour that I'll give. You see, I mean, I have a lot of older work on shelves. I went through a huge phase of when I first started wanting to make my lidded vessels. I made tons of them, and they were terrible. Like lids aren't fitting right. And I mean, it took a lot of work, like to get to the form that I have now. I'm so proud of it because it did take so many. I mean, like anything we do in art, you have to learn your process, and you do. And I never wanted to trash anything. Roy, on the other hand, like if he knows his piece isn't right, just in the clay phase, he just what's called reclaiming it. Like you just smash it down. I'm like, no, I want to go through the process. And I have a lot of these jars that are fully glazed, but it's like the lids are, God forbid you touch it because the lid's gonna fall off. I've broken lids because they don't fit right. And yeah, I'm a little bit more of the collector of things. I mean, I don't know if you notice, like in my garage studio, like I have bird nests and I have seeds and I have like there's just everything and anything, and I'm like, it's all inspiration for me.
but I feel like those are things that sell really well because people want a smaller gift that somebody could put somewhere within their home. And it just
Mm-hmm.
is like a little treasure, right? And I
Yeah.
love the big pieces, don't get me wrong, but I don't have room for big pieces. So I like those little treasures.
Yeah, nice. Thanks. Okay. Well, I know I get a little chit chatty. Looks like we have about 20 more minutes. So my last video, this one I think is only like 7 minutes long. This is part 3. We're gonna go up to the photography room. Okay. Switching over. Oh. Okay, 3, 2, 1. I get a little countdown when I start doing this. Okay, here we go.
So Roy and I have joked around that the studio is taking over our house, and it definitely is. That's a piece of artwork from a friend of mine in Florida. So the one thing I learned as an artist in this day and age, it is so important to photograph your work. So I have converted one of our spare rooms as a photography studio. Again, the shelving. I can't talk highly enough about all the shelving. Roy put all these shelves up, the bracketed shelves in here. This is, it's a very tight room with all the stuff that's in here. But we make do with what we have, right? So I actually have 2 photo areas set up. I invested in some nicer lights. I got the gradient backdrop. So this is where I do all my jury photos. And then this, with the white backdrop, is where I do my photos for the website. This has been a game changer for me to be able to have everything just set up in here. I adjust the lights. This one in here, I turn the overhead light off and I'm all set. And I unload kilns and I come in here and I just start taking my photos. Stuff needs to go up on the website. I bring it in here, I adjust all my lighting. So over here, like currently these 4 pie plates are up on the website. These are raku vessels that Roy has thrown and glazed and we fire them. Those are all up on the website if if anyone's interested. Here at theartstudios.com. And then there's some steins and coffee mugs. These were my snowmen that were a big hit this season. And here's some larger pieces that Roy has thrown. So this is great space in here. I love having all the shelving in here. But then this is also where I store, because I have my website, I store all my boxes. I store, these are buckets of wall stones that will be, they're already all packed up and ready for my next show. I have popcorn and bubble wrap that I use. I'm actually getting ready to put some ceramic stones up on my website. I'm going to make some sets. So I have those. I use these great 4-foot tables that are real lightweight and they break down. So it's really nice. I can adjust the height of them as I'm doing my photos. So I brought all my lidded jars that I've done in the past. This was kind of when I first started working on them. These are some of my older ones. But I took a bunch of pictures of them and shared them and talked about my journey with them on social media. Then I have my stone Karens, which those are made with all the different kind of clay I use in my studio, as well as some of my stone totems. I did put these up on the website. So this space has really been pretty incredible. And actually, if you can see the anchors in the walls, I have done jury photos for people. And there was one client of mine that needed to hang some pieces. So we actually rigged up a whole hanging system with chain and a bar. But it's, you know, I mean, it's funny. I can't even really get the gist of how crowded this room is and also how workable it is. And that's what I have to say, you know, about having a home studio, is being able to create what works for you and what suits your needs. And even in here, you know, I utilize this closet. You know, all my storage peanuts are in there, lighting. So it's just creating this space and making it work for you. So I do have over in our office space, I do have one whole shelf in here that is all, well, except for my photo albums that are there. This is all my packing stuff. So different boxes that are in here, envelopes I use. I found this great scale at a vintage store and it works out fantastic. So then this is my space over here. I did get myself a label maker and I have an account with Shippo. So it's really nice. I come in here, I'm able to pull up my, all my different orders from the website. I print my labels. If need to, I come in here. I use this table. So, I mean, it is not a glamorous life as a small business owner, a full-time artist. And, you know, I'm grateful to be able to have this space because I keep my costs down. I don't have a large overhead. And a lot of the stuff at home is a tax write-off because it is a work, you know, everything is a business expense. Things that I'm doing here. So, you know, it really just, as I said, you do what works for you. So that's a little peek into Here the Art Studios. Thanks for following along.
Excellent job. Yeah, excellent.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot. It really was a lot of fun to do this.
I think you need to reframe things though a bit. I don't think you have a home studio. I think you have a studio that also has a home, you know, because I mean, it
I agree.
really, I mean, you're really utilizing your space. I mean, well
Well,
done. I mean,
okay, here, I gotta do an ad. Oop, I almost, Dorothy, I gotta do one more thing to show you. Here's Dorothy sitting here. But so, you know, here's my space. This is my art area for everything non-clay. And then in here in the dining room, Roy ended up building more shelves in here so that those are all, because I have so much, I have so much glaze that it pretty much every room in the house has some little aspect of Here the Art Studios in it. And it's hilarious. I mean, and you know, we moved into this big 2-story house and I was like, how are we ever going to fill rooms? And now I'm just like, oh my gosh. There's stuff everywhere.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
Patty, can I ask
Yes.
you, what kind of camera are you using when you shoot your work? Okay,
My iPhone.
that's
I
okay.
ended up having when I first, so I mean, back in 2014, when I was realizing like I needed to use my camera, I did end up getting a nice, I think it's a Nikon. And it really just got to the point, though, that it's like the pictures I was starting to take as I was upgrading my iPhone. I'm now at an iPhone 11, but it's still like I know they just like the next advancement with my whatever the next iPhone is going to be like. I mean, the cameras just get better and better.
Mhm.
And then having the convenience, the fact that it's like it's all on my phone, it's uploaded to the iCloud. It's just so convenient to have it all there. If I do my social media posting, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't it just was, I mean, once I got the camera, the Nikon I had, it's like it outdated so quickly that it can't even keep up with the advances that, the phone can offer. So that's what works for me.
Yeah. Are you still offering you know, your service as a photographer for photographing other artists' work?
I
Are you
do.
still doing that?
I've had a few jewelers reach out to me and I have had to turn them away because I've never done jewelry photography. It's just I think that's kind of its own entity. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean if anyone wants to, I've had people come over too that I've helped show like
I
this is my
did.
setup. Yeah,
I
Joanna.
did. It was great.
So it's, I mean, if anyone wants to reach out, I've done a lot of research. The big thing that I'll say is learning how to diffuse the light was a huge learning curve for me because with the pottery, some of the matte glazes are, no problem photographing, but some of those super shiny glazes, I might have this gorgeous piece, but if I have these crazy hot spots with the lights on them, it was like I really had to learn all about diffusing and what kind of materials I can use. And I mean, you saw that space. I mean, it's a small space, but it's like
Mhm.
I'll be putting things up, working around it. So
It works. Michelle, do you need to? Oh, you're gonna have to
I think
leave?
she's got to go.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've
All
got
right.
people coming in and out, so I am so sorry. But Patty, I
Oh,
love your space. A
thanks.
great place to be able to create, and you've made great use of it, definitely. So hopefully somebody can take something, a little nugget from it, and apply into their own.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for being
Yes,
here.
thank you guys. Have a good day.
I
You too.
Yeah, I
So
think
that
it's
was
just, I mean, having your home, I mean, the the one drawback that I didn't say anything about working out of a home studio, I do miss the socialization. Like I talk to Roy a lot throughout the day, but it's, that's the one difference where I would love at some point, I mean, and this is kind of our goal is we eventually want to buy some property and we want to establish here the art studios as a working studio. And I would love to have a space that I can invite other artists to come and work because I think that camaraderie and working with other artists and doing collaborative work and being able to, I really want a wood fire kiln. That was something on my college campus. And in a wood fire kiln, you do end up firing that sucker for days. I mean, the one on our campus was so huge. We fired it for about 6 days straight, and you're working these 12-hour shifts. And it was such like people would bring instruments and bring food, and we're just hanging out and we're chopping wood. And I really miss that working as a solo artist working in my home studio. I'm not having that connection, so things like best of Missouri hands or looking into ways that I can meet and talk with other artists, that's probably I would say the biggest drawback of having a home studio and just working by myself.
mhm. But you have definitely created a very, very creative space for yourself. It's very homey and it just energizes you. I mean, just
Mhm.
looking at your space, except for Roy's, you need to go down there and help Roy decorate a little bit, you know. But you know, everything else, I mean, it just you can just feel the energy. And so I think fantastic. You
Thanks.
did a wonderful tour. Um, you know, and it just gives me a greater appreciation of what artists do and how much they've invested not only of their time but you know of their money and you know to make you know to be able to create what they create. So
Yeah. Well,
um
I'm
another
so grateful to be able to, live life as a full-time artist. I'm
Mhm.
really appreciative of Roy and this, this was a decision we made. I'm not bringing him to retirement anytime fast while working as an artist, but I'm grateful that I am truly living my dream.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I really enjoyed seeing your studio in your home. And I have a much, much, much smaller studio, but I'm in the garage, but I'm in the back little bit of our garage, compacted in. And so anytime I'm assembling, the guest room gets all set up to assemble work. And, I
Well,
just
it
kind of
is. I
take
mean,
over
that's it.
spaces and then I got to
Yes.
put them back together.
And it is. That's what, and I have to be mindful. I mean, I'm down to just one cat. We lost our other cat last April that she would get into everything. Dorothy now is a lot more chill. She's 16 and she doesn't get into stuff. But I mean, there were times when I had Alice, the cat that I lost, I would be bringing slabs up and having them on the table to dry a little bit. And the next thing I see, there's little paw prints across the top of the slab, she got into everything. She was always drinking from like the glaze water buckets. And I'm like, get out of here. Yeah, I mean, and I know people go through it that have kids. I mean, I don't have any children, so I'm not, contending with space from them. So yeah, you do what works for you. I mean, that's what I couldn't stress that enough because it's like you just make the space work. If you want it to happen, you're gonna find a way to make it happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
well, thanks so much. I mean, a
that
huge
was
thanks
great.
to Best of Missouri Hands for just offering this opportunity. I think it's really fun that we're able to take a glimpse into how other people do art. And, I mean, more
absolutely.
power to all of us for doing this and continuing.
Very inspiring.
Yeah.
It was great.
Very.
Oh,
Okay,
so
Patty.